The Republican Party has to do something. Granted, the Democratic Party has to do something, yes. But the Republican Party, by virtue of Trump, is really on its way to oblivion. In my opinion, do you feel like they will double down on Donald Trump's type of politics just with a better presentation? Or do you think they will reform themselves and come back from the brink? I'll take it. Actually, I want to hear all of you on that. David, let's start with you and go around the room.
I think it depends on what aspects of his platform, of his policy. I think that they will double down on the social aspect. And if he really, if he were president, if he really did stick to Reaganomics, they would double down.
Oh, yeah.
If he didn't, then they wouldn't, because they have powers that be to report to and to answer to.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it really comes down to the donors and the oligarchy. So socially, they'll go with, being against immigration, with being, all that stuff, whatever the base, whatever will please the base. And obviously the base is voting for Trump. But when it comes to economics, it's really going to come down to the powerful.
What do you think, Brandon? Do they double down or do they come back from the brink?
I think that a bad 4 years of Clinton with more neoconservatism and more neoliberalism, people won't be able to say that Republicans would have done worse. They'll just think the Democrats did bad. That's the problem with a binary. That combined with the media, who's going to keep propping up this two-party system, and the Democrats are going to keep propping up this two-party system in order to maintain their own power, means that 4 years from now, we're going to have a viable Republican candidate, regardless of what went on this time, because that's just the way our establishment functions. They want the Republicans to continue to exist.
Democrats. I agree with you 100%, but do you think they're going to be a viable candidate with the same style of nationalism, xenophobia, and the same Trumpism, just in a cleaner package? Or do you think they have a better candidate with less of these extreme policies that Trump is forwarding?
I don't know what you mean by better. I mean, even looking at the 27 Republican primary candidates we had this year, Donald Trump wasn't the worst one. He was probably
in terms of presentation, right? Because let's be true, let's be real. You could have Ted Cruz up there, who in my opinion is worse than Donald Trump, but he would have wiped the floor with Hillary Clinton. I'm just saying, in terms of are they going to give us a more a crazier candidate, because that's where we've incrementally led to, right? Are we going to get a crazier candidate? Or are we coming back from the brink in terms of getting someone who is just probably economically and socially insane, if not more, but just in a package that conforms to the establishment?
Okay, I know. Okay, no, they're going to use Trump as their sort of new Coke, and then they're going to go back to a Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio or whatever type candidate and pretend like Trump was their wake-up call, and that this another candidate with the better packaging, he's not as bad as Trump was. So this is Trump was our rock bottom moment, and now we picked Ted Cruz. It shows you that we're going back to our roots. They're going to use this Trump thing to show that they've learned their lesson, and then they're going to pretend like they're picking a more moderate conservative candidate, when really they're just going to pick another Trump, but with better media training.
So Trump,
I think that Trump is dangerous in that sense.
Yeah. Nick, let me go to you, because I think Brandon makes a convincing argument there in terms of Cruz. But do you think they'll go back to a Cruz style Republican or a Kasich styled Republican? Or no, not even Kasich, but a Jeb Bush style Republican.
Okay, so ultimately, I mean, we're drawing distinctions between Republicans, but most of them are the same. The only difference between Donald Trump and the rest of them is when they were giving out their rhetoric class, Donald Trump just didn't pay attention. He didn't go to school, and he just comes in there, flying by the seat of his pants, doing whatever, shooting from the hip, right? So ultimately, Trump isn't really this aberration. He's just somebody who got into politics that doesn't really have very good rhetoric, but it appeals to a certain voter base because it's so different or so bad. So that's really what he is. So are they going to double down on that? Possibly. I mean, I think, Chris Christie was definitely, on that loudmouth brand similar to Trump. And I definitely believe that Marco Rubio, in a sense, even though he's more establishment, he's more polished in terms of putting his stuff out there, but he's polished to the point where you can see that it's polished. But ultimately, they're probably just going to double down and do what they've always done. And they're going to wield the two-party system, or the idea of the two-party system, and voter sentiment towards whoever's in office when bad stuff happens. They're going to wield that to their advantage, and they're always going to be viable.
So
this idea that they will eventually jump off a cliff and become non-viable because of their positions, they're just going to wield the two-party system to their advantage, and that's always going to save them.
So, but here's
I'd ask a question if I can.
Well, actually, let me throw this in here because it's kind of an important distinction in my opinion, right? So the reason Donald Trump won his primary was because of his approach, was because he wasn't polished, was because of his bombasticness or whatever, bombastity. The reason, that's why he won. And there was a poll by YouGov that showed that even though they all say they would prefer a different candidate, if they did it all over again, Donald Trump would still get a plurality, therefore he would still win. So the problem is going forward is that this animosity towards the establishment, that isn't going anywhere. And the person who can put the establishment in its place probably is the one that's going to win. Rhetoric and this brashness is a part of his winning strategy. I don't know that they can. I don't know that I know the establishment wants to come back from the brink. I don't know if they can put an establishment player up who is polished and be able to beat a Donald Trump style candidate. I think they're in a feedback loop that's really kind of descending into chaos because of what their base wants, and because their base is so divided that even now, still looking in the mirror, in the rearview mirror of this primary, Donald Trump still got a plurality in this most recent poll.